go again. Hey, y'all. JW. R.A.F.O.N report. R.A.F.O.N, rise and fall of nations. You look throughout history, nations rise, nations fall. And this is entirely cyclical is the word. But in between the build-up getting to there and this rise of nations, and in between where we go down the hill when we're heading towards the collapse, in between there's a lot of things to learn from. There's a lot of systems in place that if you start to pay attention through studying history, and I mean various nations, empires, kingdoms, leaders, the regimes they ran, all of the moves that they made, you see a lot of similarities. So when you fast forward into your own time and you start looking around the world and you start paying more attention than what you did last week, you're going to be surprised what you'll find. Now, we've been kind of wrapped up here. I guess the world has, at least, well, it depends on who you believe when it comes to this coronavirus. But the world's been, at least since December. And it's not a whole lot prettier today. But I finally got a break. I finally got a little break from having to do another coronavirus update video. But it's kind of odd because I sit here as I'm getting ready to do things, and, I'm trying to go through all of the notes that I got here, which is all pretty kind of new to me because I don't usually do it, but it seems to be beneficial for a lot of reasons, at least trying to help me keep things contained in my head. Because, again, you're sitting here on the internet, and you can go through a million things in almost no time. But in trying to find material that's not related to the coronavirus, sometimes you got to dig deep because it's just plastered everywhere today. But I ran across something I kind of run into a few years ago. I've since forgotten, things get busy and you're doing a lot of things. But I ran across this again because my wife had sent me a little video earlier that she had run across, and this is what jogged my memory and kind of where all of this started progressing from. But it was about what a lot of people refer to as a missing verse in the Star-Spangled Banner. Again, the Star-Spangled Banner, obviously we're referring to America here, and it comes from this guy right here. Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner, America's National Anthem. It's not where it started. Much like myself, Mr. Key here was a poet. He wrote a poem. A lot of Americans, the patriotic ones especially, historians especially, they may be familiar with the additional stanzas, I guess they're called, in a poem. But most people, they just know the first one from singing the Star-Spangled Banner. So let's put it up here. Now, again, you got to remember Francis Scott Key, Star-Spangled Banner. We're going all the way back to before America's independence. But this centers right around that battle. As you can see, this is the complete version of the Star-Spangled Banner showing spelling and punctuation from Francis Scott Key's manuscripts in the Maryland Historical Society collection. Here's one we all know and love. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare and the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave? Beautiful. Just warms your heart, brings a tear to your eye when you think of happier times and better times. But we have to remember when he wrote this, what was becoming America was in the midst of a war where this foreign power and this foreign king wanted to bring us back under subjection again. And this battle took place in where America won its independence. Second stanza here. On the shore dimly seen through the midst of the deep, where the foe's haughty host in dread silence reposes, what is that which the breeze over the towering steep, as it fitfully blows, half conceals and half discloses? Now it catches the gleam of the morning's first beam, in full glory reflected now shines in the stream. 'Tis the star-spangled banner, oh long may it wave, over the land of the free and the home of the brave. Again, it's just, you have to kind of picture the setting. Here's this guy, he's on a boat offshore, but just barely offshore, and he can see one of our forts is being decimated by the British. And the focus here, of course, is on that great big flag that was standing up there. That was part of the questions that was going on in the hull of this ship in the middle of the night. People wanted to look and see, was it still there? This seems to be the problem stanza. Pay attention. Because now, this thing that I had run across, because again, I had run across a video of a guy who sang this stanza, this one I'm about to read you here, and it was just so beautiful, but I had completely forgot it was about the song. And by the time I got done looking or listening to the video of this, and then of course you're on YouTube, and you start reading the comments underneath, and it's like, ah, crap. That's right, I completely forgot. Apparently the Star Spangled Banner's racist. You know, everything today is racist. And where is the band who so vauntingly swore that the havoc of war and the battle's confusion, a home and a country should leave us no more, their blood has washed out their foul footsteps' pollution. No refuge could save the hireling and slave. See that word, slave? No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph does wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave. We'll come back to that in a minute. And then the last one. Oh, thus be it ever when free men shall stand between their loved homes and the war's desolation. Blessed with victory and peace, may the heaven-rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then conquer we must, when our cause it is just, and this be our motto, in God is our trust. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph shall wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave. Well, let's go back here. Look at this. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave. I can't say that the liberal, the left, ever really does anything that catches me off guard, that I don't expect. But boy, every now and then you get walloped upside the head, and you got to be reminded of just how stupid and ignorant these people are. This poem, which by the way was not intended to be our national anthem, let's also remember that our national anthem is only the first stanza. It doesn't include any of the other three. And this became our national anthem something like 130 years after it was written. But as the historical revisionists have to do it throughout time, they got to go back and they got to nitpick and they got to. Oh my God, there's got to be something in here. There's just got to be something in here that. Oh my God, there it is. You look at that. Doesn't it hurt your feelings? Anymore. I gotta laugh. But you know what? It's irritating. It's nauseating, but give me a break. No refuge could save the hireling and the slave from the terror of flight and the gloom of the grave. Let me tell you something. There's nothing in this that's about slavery. This was not written about slavery. This was written about a man who was on a ship offshore, but he could see a battle. And he was wondering if that country was going to survive that war. That's what this is about. And as a poet, I completely understand that you're grabbing different things around you while you're writing, and you're seaming it together. You're putting together a tapestry so that at the end that you have something where if you took all of the pieces apart again, so many of them look like they're irrelevant and have nothing to do with it. But when you sew it together just right, and I've learned a lot of this also by watching my wife with her crafts, you put all of these pieces together, and then you have something that's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. The Star-Spangled Banner is beautiful. The entire thing, not just the main part that we sing. But again, This is speaking about a battle. And that's why it says no refuge could save the hiring or slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave. There was nowhere to run. The battle was everywhere. This isn't about slavery. It happens to mention, of course, there were slaves in America, but just because something mentions slave doesn't make it racist. And let's remind people again, every race on earth has been slave master and slave. Every race on the earth, bar none. But where this kind of went off the rails again was shortly after, if you all remember this clown, Colin Kaepernick, God only knows. I don't know that this is the exact photo, may not be, but he started this kneel down campaign at a preseason game in 2016. Now that didn't garner a lot of my attention, but as this story progressed, one of the things that came out, because again, this kneeling was to protest at the time that the flag and the national anthem is going on, and this is supposed to be about police brutality, oppression against blacks. I don't know. I don't get all teary-eyed over this stuff. It just, to me, it's stupid. But somehow, people, followers of this movement that grew out of this kneeling campaign, then they had to start finding other ways to justify him doing this. So they went ahead and they went right after that Star Spangled Banner itself. And then they find this one verse that happens to mention slaves. Well, if this song was, what became a song, if this poem was so bad against the slaves, what's it saying about the hireling in the same verse? You know what a hireling is? Do you have a job? Are you employed by somebody else? Are you making someone else rich? Well, then you're a hireling. Don't get all teary and misty-eyed on me now. I'm sorry to break your heart. But it just, man, it burns my ass. I get so tired of this. These social justice warriors, they got to go through and they got to find 10,000 things to be offended over. And yet, this liberal left touts that they're the party of tolerance. They're not the party of tolerance. You know what? America had or has a slavery past. Yeah, we do. But that's a long time ago. Why does that line, it was a long time ago, it was so long ago, or what difference could it possibly make now? Why is that line only acceptable by the left? Because it only serves their agenda. When we bring it up, it's no, you're not allowed to do that. You gotta look deeper into these things when people are finding things to be offended about. They're finding things. They're searching every single day. What can I wake up and be offended by today that I can go push my social justice activism on top of people, and if they don't agree with me, well then we'll send our Antifa thugs to kick their asses. Yeah, the party of tolerance. The party of love, the party of basic human rights and dignity. Isn't that what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said? We're just a party of dignity. We want everybody to have dignity. No, you don't. Not when you're trying to shut me up. The words that come out of my mouth are not going to physically harm you. You got offended. So what? Suck it up, buttercup, and move on. Again, this is just one of the latest battles. And to tell you the truth, again, as I said in the beginning, with all of this coronavirus thing that's been going around for so long, I completely forgot a lot about this. But man, if you get a chance, go look up the Star Spangled Banner and learn the whole thing. It's beautiful through and through. Now, of course, I say that coming from being an American. I say that coming from being a patriot. But I also say that coming from being a poet. It's even a little weird for me to try to picture somebody watching what could be the absolute devastation of your country, and you can write something so beautiful. Again, Francis Scott Key did not believe he was writing something that was going to become our national anthem. It didn't become our national anthem until almost, 130 years, some later. And only part of it did. So, if the first stanza is our national anthem, then why in the world are people saying the national anthem's racist? Because they're including the third stanza. Well, what about the second one and the fourth one? I mean, they just went in there, they found one word in the entire thing. I wish I'd have done a word count on it. In the entire thing, they found one word. Oh, God, it mentions the slave. Let me tell you something. In the Battle of Independence, there was nobody running around hunting black people just because they were black. People are starting to get their wars confused. You know, here in America, over the last 40, 50, 60 years, really, bits and pieces of it before that, they managed to put the super narrative on top of the Civil War that it was about slavery. No, it was not about slavery. Slavery was an auxiliary thing that got pulled in after it had already started. Again, people are kind of mixing things, but if you see what they've done now with the Civil War, they've got most of the talking heads out here. Yeah, it was about slavery. It was about slavery. It was about slavery. No, it wasn't. And that's exactly what they tried to do here. Thankfully, again, Colin Kaepernick started this stuff in 2016. I don't really know when people started associating this with that particular part, but it's ridiculous. It's just something else for social justice warriors to get all offended about, and it's more to keep us all fighting. So, again, I'm JW. I tend to get animated, when I'm really getting into topics that just like that passion in me. But again, JW, this is the R.A.F.O.N. report. Thanks for stopping by again. I did have one video where a guy was explaining someone else's opinion on how they see the slavery in the Star Spangled Banner and why they will never stand for it again. I'm going to include a link for that video in there. You got to go watch this guy. Whack-a-doodle, just absolutely gone. But he's listening to another idiot. And when an idiot listens to an idiot, they go out and they spread idiocy. And we're surrounded by it every single day. And that's one of the things I guess I'm here to do. I bring you some information, bring you some news, bring you some updates, and some idiocy. And you're going to hear my blunt, honest, and often crass opinions about it. But if you're coming back, I appreciate it. Again, if you like what you hear, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And if you feel like it, you can throw me a couple bucks over there on PayPal. Until next time, God bless you and God bless America.